So guys, I got a really good response. Not a lot of views and stuff, which doesn't really matter, but it's the responses that I got about the, were there businesses in your town and stuff like that, and what has happened to the country. From what I can see, the major consensus, and well, I guess what I could start off with is that different people blame different things. And the thing is they didn't put the blame entirely on any one thing, it seems. But we've pretty much come to the conclusion from the majority, if that means anything, that greed has a lot to do with this. And it's not just the greed of politicians and big business, but it's also our own greed. When it comes to purchasing, we took the cheaper way instead of the more expensive way, which, it's only natural that you would do that. I mean, why would somebody pay $10 for something when they can get it for $8? It wouldn't make sense to do that. Even if, unless you're going through life saying, well, I'm going to only buy American, period, and this is what I want to do. Now, and I guess there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there has to be some things added to that. There's nothing wrong with buying or being devoted to a particular brand. But let's face it, nobody buys a brand, or at least anybody with a brain, doesn't buy a brand just so they can go and buy the same brand again in something that's supposed to last. I mean, I don't know about you, but I like whole wheat Ritz crackers. Every week my wife buys whole wheat Ritz crackers, or every 2 weeks, or whatever, whenever she goes shopping, because that's something we consume. So we buy more. And the thing is like say with my tractor or my backhoe, I'm not buying another backhoe every 2 years or 4 years just because what I bought is falling apart. And I'm not going to let someone who sold me something that cost, for the small tractor owner today, $12,000 to $20,000. I'm not going to let somebody sell that to me and get away with not keeping their word to whatever the maintenance on it, or not the maintenance, but the warranty would be on it. Okay, so that those things sort of are self-explanatory. I mean, nobody's going to spend more money than they have to. Okay, and nobody is going to be taken if they have some wits and some sense about themselves when it comes to, what they've agreed upon. When we buy stuff in this country, we expect it to stay running. Even the automobiles that we bought, which, for me, I have a lot of experience in buying cars and trucks. I can tell you that in most cases, I've had very little problems with cars reaching 100,000 miles. Okay? Now, I can't say that there's not any problems, but very few. And I'm a Chevy fan. But that doesn't mean that, Ford doesn't do it, because I'm sure they do. They claim Toyota is so wonderful. Either way, the point is we buy stuff to make it, that would last when we can. And to accept lesser than that is a degradation of the buying, or the free market, I should say. It's a degradation of that. You're destroying the free market when the things you sell aren't worth what you are selling them for. Let me tell you how I think about this when it comes to money. I had mentioned, I think, that our kids, and maybe I didn't, but our kids have a tendency of, when I first started working as a kid, my first bill was to pay my mom and dad room and board. which was cheap. I think it was 20 bucks they charged me, and I paid it. Today, the kids, not only do they not want to pay room and board to you, but they're actually, and I'm not saying all, but they're actually willing to pay for their cell phone instead. I have to laugh at that because the reason I laugh at that is what? These kids who have cell phones are so intelligent, and their wisdom needs to be spread and shared so vastly that without a cell phone by their side, there is no way that they would be able to spread their vast amount of knowledge and wisdom. So therefore, they need to have a cell phone in order to do this. Now I know that there's people who need to have cell phones so their parents can get a hold of them, or so in case they're in a dangerous situation, but come on. Most of these kids don't need cell phones, but they're willing to put money out for them and not pay their share of room and board. In my book, that doesn't work. Either you're going to pay your share, or you're going to get out and find out just how tough things really can be. And recently one of my kids had this issue with their kids, and I'm all for it. I think that the right thing was done. If you're not going to, chip in, then it's time for you to go do your work for yourself, if that's how you want to be. There has never been a time in my life where, and I didn't stay at home long, but there has never been a time in my life where being on your own is cheaper than being at home. That is a lie if that's what's being said. I don't think it is. Most people know that if you live in the basement of your parents' house, you can save a ton. But the problem today is the kids live in the basement, and then they don't want to pay for all the amenities that they get. They choose to live in the basement, trying to make it seem like they're not part of the house. It's like a false outlook on freedom. But anyway, getting back to the thing about businesses that were in our towns and that. I often sat around trying to figure this out. Let's say, just think about this for a second. Let's say there's no money. There's no such thing as money right now. Let me shut this radio off. My wife went shopping, so it won't be her. Anyway, let's suppose that there's no such thing as money, and we're about to introduce it, okay? So I'm going to claim, like the government claimed, we are the ones who handle the money, and here's what's going to happen. We're going to give money or loan money to people to do things and to get this money circulated. So on a small scale, look at it like this. Okay, so I have a dollar bill, right? Now I take this dollar and someone has, let's say, a dozen of eggs, and I need a dozen of eggs. But I want to buy these eggs for the best price I can. So I tell the guy, well look, I will come and buy all my eggs from you if you sell them to me for 50 cents a dozen. Okay, so the guy sells me eggs for 50 cents, and I buy 2 dozen of eggs. Now, I buy these 2 dozen of eggs, and I spent my dollar. Now this guy here, he has the dollar. Well, he needs chicken feed. So he takes the dollar, and he goes and spends money to buy chicken feed. And let's say he buys 5 bags of chicken feed for $1, and this is where his money went. Now the guy who sold him the chicken feed, he needs to stock his store with chicken feed, dog food, cow food, whatever, horse food. So he takes that money and divides that up buying that food. Now, this same guy needs to buy needs to buy eggs. So he takes some of his dollar and he comes back to the farmer who's selling the eggs, and he says to him, you know, I'll buy all my eggs from you if you give them to me for 50 cents. So what I could never understand is these dollars go round and round, and how do you actually make or keep any of the money? The money gets kept, if you think about it, the money is kept when you sell something for more than it's worth. And literally, they teach you this in college. I know as a construction manager teacher, construction project management, teaching how to hang on to money and, you know, as what they call earnings is what this was about. So somewhere in the line of where the dollar went and how it got back to you, someone had to sell the price, the item, for lack of better words here, they had to sell the item for more than it was worth so that they could get a little extra money to keep and not have to spend the next time they got to go buy eggs. I don't know if you're following me here, but it's not really that hard. So in other words, you got $1, and the dollar can buy so much, or at least that's what they like you to hear. The government loves to tell you what you can buy for $1 today. The only thing is you can't get that from them for $1, or from anybody, anybody that's selling, especially when I had to laugh. I started getting these commercials on YouTube about this company that makes ag software so that the farmer knows how much money he's going to make. I guarantee you the farmer may make a couple bucks more than he was because he can keep track of stuff better. But I guarantee you the people who wrote that software have already made a fortune just in the fact that they're able to advertise it so heavily, even on YouTube. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, in order to keep money, in order to keep it, somewhere in the line that the money follows, the money trail, somewhere in that money trail, someone has got to have gotten ripped off and paid more for something of less value. Because one thing I know for certain, the more things you get that you can keep for an extended period of time, like say that backhoe I have is 30 years old, the less money you spend in the long haul. Now, my Ford backhoe that I have is, like I say, 30 years old. If you go and buy a new John Deere, and I'm not picking on John Deere, I'm saying any tractor, any kind of tractor, homeowner type tractor, and you pay 20,000 bucks for that, that thing is never going to last you 30 years, especially if you are using it, you know, for its original intention, which is to lift things, plow things, carry things, or whatever. I mean, I'm talking about really using it. If you take it like I did my 2006 Chevy truck and park it into the garage, it's hardly proven its worth in work. It's only proven its worth in that the market sooner or later will come around and pay me twice what I paid for that truck. Might have to wait till my grandkids are my age, but nonetheless, that's what seems to happen. Because they realize the value of the older things later on in life just because of how they were built. So anyway, my point here is that when you buy something, you want to make sure that it's worth, this is how you become wealthy. You buy things that are worth more than you paid for them. And you have to prove that, okay? It can't be a matter of, it's not always like that you can sell it for more, okay? That's not always the issue. But let's go that route for a second. If I buy, well, let's say I got this lumber here, okay? Now I made this piece of molding and I probably made it for about, I don't know, $6 a board foot when you start, you know, from stump to finished product. So if I go to Lowe's, I pay $8 a board foot. So I'm ahead $2. So that means that that $2 adds to the value of the house, but it's actually my money to be gained. And the older it gets, because this product is of its time, you know, it's a pretty good product. There's some bad boards here, but mainly they're all good. It's a good product, it's going to last, and therefore it'll be worth more money in the future. And that's the whole thing of project management. What is something worth in the future? What are the future payments? What is the future value? What is the, you know, the length of time that you can keep things going? It's known as the time value of money. But nonetheless, if you buy things for a good price and they last you, then you have done well. And in this economy that we have today, that is all that a consumer can do in order to make themselves and save themselves money. Now, what does this have to do with all these businesses that are going under? Well, you know, when you really think about it, things change, times change, designs change, and people's wants change. So businesses are going to come and go. I mean, there's big business. I mean, Bell Telephone, I thought Bell Telephone would be an example or in existence forever. And in our area, there is no Bell Telephone. Verizon bought them up, or whoever, and AT&T, or I don't know how it goes. I don't care how it goes. But the point is the guy who invented it doesn't get any, you know, thing from it anymore. So that's, you know, how things go. Same thing with the, I think a guy by the name of Deere, maybe John Deere, I guess his name was, built the first tractor, or had the idea for the first tractor. He would probably be appalled if he saw how long the tractors last now and what they're do or don't do. And I'm not talking about you guys who are John Deere diehards and wouldn't say a cross word about John Deere or Ford only because it would hurt your feelings. I'm talking about people here who are real and understand just what they got to do to make things last. No different than that fan I fixed in yesterday's video. You know, the fan cost, think about this, the fan cost me $15. If I was not able to fix that fan, I would have to go and buy another fan for $15. But since I fixed it with a $2 screwdriver, I did not have to spend the entire $15. And if you want to add my labor in on there, be my guest. But I still did not actually spend and take the money out of my pocket. You know, I talk a lot about getting paid for the things you do, and everybody should be paid for what they do. But there comes a time when trying to get paid for what you do within your own garage, for instance, I'm not talking about a business, I'm talking about within my garage or within my house, takes time. I'm going to get paid for this house, and I'm going to get paid for it one day or another. It doesn't matter when it happens. What matters is that it does happen. And whether I get it or my grandkids get it, doesn't matter to me either. Make myself a note to edit this out where the time lag is, because I had to go get more lumber or more molding. So then, getting back to this, when you spend money, if you pay less than something is worth, and it's very hard to do that, especially if you go to a used car dealership or a dealership of any kind, because they make software to keep track of not only what something costs them to build, but if they keep track of what the trending is for the purchase of it. Most people know that John Deere will bring more money when you go to resell it than what some other tractor, like I don't know, Mahindra, I'll say, or Coyote. And again, don't think I'm putting these tractors down. I'm not. I know nothing about them, so therefore I don't know that. But what I do know is that everyone seems to understand on the tractor things channels that John Deere does have a good resale value. But nonetheless, whether it be John Deere having a good resale value, or you pay less for a Mahindra, let's say, and you sell it for less, but you still sell it for a percentage that's equal to more than what the tractor is worth at the moment you sell it, you're still making out. And that's why a lot of people don't understand that, they don't see that, and they don't understand just where their money is going. But I understand it, and I know there's a lot of you out there that understand it. You cannot throw money away on high-priced things, you know. Even if you're wealthy, you cannot spend money on high-priced things and think that you're going to keep your wealth, because you're not. This is why people get into credit card debt trouble. They get a credit card, and the best thing you could do with a credit card is never buy perishable items. Do not use a credit card for food. Do not use a credit card to buy tires. Do not use a credit card for clothing. The reason for this is because you're always going to have the credit card. Now, you know, granted, if you're the type of person who pays your card off every month, that's different. You're basically using it as convenience. But from what I've been reading in financial pages, that's not true. Most people are just, they go into debt, stay in debt, and keep going with debt. And they use debt to pay debt, and that's when you're really in trouble. When you see yourself going into debt to pay your debts, you can assume that you're going to be bankrupt shortly. It's only a matter of time. Now, if you go into debt to pay some debt off, but the debt that you went into also is going to increase your income, that's a different story. But, you know, that gets a little more complicated, and there's where you need somebody who understands money to figure things out for yourself. But I think in the long haul that we are greedy for, and the greed has caused the Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, or whoever, countries, to be able to sell their cheaper made product. I think that's what the story is. You know, I know that in guns, I was amazed watching the videos. Sometimes I gotta wonder if they're really true. I watched a video where some guy's in a freaking grass hut with a bunch of files, made a 1911 pistol with a file. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done, because I know it can be done. I know a person can do it if they have the determination and some know-how. But, you know, how do you compete with somebody who's putting out thousands of them a day, or 100 a day, or however many they make a day when they were making them? I'm not certain of that, unless the price you work for is so low that they can't buy the machinery to reproduce them. They can't have people run the machinery. It's just, your price of labor is so low that everything you do and everything you try to do just can't compare. The problem with that concept is, I doubt if that's what it is. It's more like, oh, this guy's making 1911s with a file. We don't have to pay for tooling. We don't have to pay for labor. We don't have to pay for health care, vacation pay. Let's buy his and resell them. We'll put our own name on them. That seems to be what's happening with the smaller tractors. And that's where they make the money. and that's where the greed comes in. Who's to say that we have to remain loyal anyway to a certain product? Don't we feel good when we buy a product that lasts a long time? We feel good about that. And I'm sure that there'll be people saying on this, answering this comments that I'm making, that their John Deere has lasted 30 years or whatever. And that's fine. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying this is what I've been, hearing on the YouTube. But of course, YouTube, there's a lot of things to be desired there. You got to know something before you can start listening to something else. The one difference that I've noticed between the youth, or the now generation, and our generation is that, I know for me, and you'll find this funny, but it's true. I bought a bunch of trucks, I told you that the other day. When I go in to buy a truck, I do not dicker about the price. I never did, and I never will. Because I'm not good at dickering. I don't like to dicker. I feel as if dickering is an admission of poverty, and I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying that's how I feel. I feel that dickering is an admission of poverty, and I'm not impoverished, and I don't feel that I should be begging for anything. So I don't beg. I just pay what they tell me. But I do a whole lot of research, and if somebody tells me that some price is something and I think that that's not fair, I just won't buy it. I don't care if I got to wait 5 years to go around that. I'll buy it in 5 years. I won't buy it now. I'll buy it at some reduced price, or I'll buy one that's maybe slightly used or whatever, depending upon my need. I mean, if I need 10 trucks and I need them right now, I got no choice. I need them now. I'm going to pay, and I'll make the customer pay me for whatever that truck costs. But when it comes, I'm talking about my own personal life, my personal income, and my personal expenditures. There's a way to become wealthy within yourself. No matter what your income is, you can do this within reason. I mean, you got to be able to afford food. If you have the income where you can afford food, clothing, and shelter, then the rest of it is gravy in my mind. Just start cutting back on wherever you need to cut back and live the best life you can. Well, I think I said it the other day, pay your bills and then live a good life. Now, a lot of people have problems with that. Everybody, they see their neighbor with something, and, in the older days, and I don't know if it's still like this, but women seem to have the biggest problem with that. Oh, our neighbor got a microwave. I think we should have a microwave. They can make supper in less than 5 minutes, so we should have a microwave too, because it'll save me time and save you money and all these other things. Until it comes said and done, it's pretty much just another ornament sitting on the countertop. When I built this house that Sally and I live in, when we first came here, there was no electricity here. And we thought that there was never going to be electricity here, at least not in our lifetime. But it ended up where they did put it in, and we paid a pretty penny to get it, because Sally wanted it. But for me, when I bought our kitchen stove, I bought a plain Jane propane stove. There's no clock, there's no light, there is nothing on there except you light the pilot light with a match, and whenever you need propane, as long as it's in the tank, or your stove, as long as you have propane in the tank, you've got a stove to work with. Sally doesn't mind using it, although she complains about a light, but I give her a flashlight and she uses that to look at the cake. But the thing is why not? I mean, why pay an exorbitant amount for something else? When I bought the stove, it cost me $300 when I first built the house. If I buy a gas stove today, it's $800, and the stove has clocks, timers, automatic shut off, automatic this, automatic that. We don't need that crap. I'll tell you what, I never had air conditioning in a truck until 2004. I never thought it a problem to wind the window down and get some air that way. Now, I'm not talking about, you know, if you're living in Florida or somewhere, I guess maybe, or California, maybe things are hotter there or whatever, that's different. You know, then you have a need for it, right? And that's the other word that we have to talk about is need. So it's one thing to need a stove to cook food. It's another thing to need a light, night light, timer, bells and whistles going off to tell you that the cake is done. You know, I don't know. You know, I'm in the modern age. I like computers. Computers help me a lot in different ways. They can figure out things faster with a computer than I could ever figure out with a pen and paper. But when it comes to paying all the options, like I say, in cars and stuff, I would rather they make a good set of stainless steel brake lines or some kind of brake line that doesn't rot when they build the car, and forget the junk that they put in the car, outlets for this and outlets for that, and Wi-Fi, and you know, you can call us if you have an accident, or we'll call you. I forget what they call that, Earthlink or some kind of I don't know what it's called. GM has it. I never bought it. Same thing with satellite radio. You know, I bought a new Ford Ranger for my son, which he never wanted after I bought it. But anyway, I bought it for him. And it was sitting in my garage a couple of years ago. I sold it, but it was sitting in the garage waiting for him to get out of high school so he could go to college, or no, getting out of college and going to work is what it was for. But anyway, it didn't work out. He didn't want it. And but the amazing thing is when I went to buy it, the guy says to me, you know, I told him I was buying it for my son. He said, "Your son's going to love this." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because there's a wire here that he can hook up and play his favorite music." For crying out loud, that's where we've come. I don't know, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not enjoying all the wonderful things that electronics has given us. All I know is I don't want to watch a TV program where going around the screen is all kinds of news stuff. It gives me a headache trying to read that stuff. The last time I watched television, I was at the doctor's office. And I was glad not to be there. And he says to me when I went in, he says to me, "What's the matter?" I said, "I've got a freaking headache." He said, "Oh, tell me about it." Well, when I came in here, I didn't have it, but I watched television over there for 5 minutes, and now I've got a headache. So, guys, I just want to tell you again, I really appreciate those comments. I know a lot of people are in the background not commenting, and, you know, naturally you can do whatever you want, but I would really like to hear diverse stuff. I like hearing it. And I like knowing the reason why people think the way they do. I'm not condemning it, I'm just wanting to know what it is. Okay. That stuff that you saw me do, plus these, has 2 coats on it. And I'm actually liking the look of 2 coats on this. So I'm going to do 1 or 2 of the rooms upstairs with this. Somebody had asked me if there's a difference in this polyurethane as far as, you know, once you apply it. And I'll show you the difference. I think I can probably show it to you right now. This is a piece of crown molding that I'm about to show you. This crown molding is was stained or polyurethane with this stuff. The original oil base. And I don't know if you can tell on the screen, But like, if you look at this piece and you look at this piece, this one here has a lot of knots in it, so the colors are different. You can see it's like, to me, I don't know if the word orange is correct or brown, but it's darker than this one, it looks like. And this one has one coat on it of the water base. This has one coat of the oil base. So yeah, there is a slightly different color that you get from it, depending on whether you use water or oil. And actually, if you look in the container, this is more like weak, I don't know if you can see that, it's more like weak milk than it is like the oil base. But it still works good and I like it. So I'm going to continue using that. I had gotten some comments, good comments from guys who do this for a living, put polyurethane on, or painters or whatever, and they gave some good advice. They said for heavy duty applications, the one guy gave the advice, for heavy duty stuff like floors, if you're going to be dragging furniture, you want to use the oil base. For lighter duty stuff like molding, where it doesn't get much, wear and tear, this water base is good, and it'll hold up, under those conditions. So, well, anyway, guys, you heard my 2 cents on the thing about money and wealth, and I know that these things are true because I have done them in my life, and they work. Does someone end up not getting their money's worth? Absolutely. Because in our society, if that doesn't happen, no one ends up with more than they need, and at times you have to have more than you need, because if you don't, when you have a rainy day, you will be unable to cope with it and lose everything. So this nonsense with socialism, where they want everybody to have the same thing, unless you're willing to back everybody up on rainy days, and you're able to, I don't see how socialism can work. And in fact, it's been proven not to work. Alright guys, so I'm going to move some molding around then after I do this one. I'll talk to you again another time. Have a good one. Guys, I want to say one other thing. I'm going to name this video How to Build Wealth. And I know most of you got it. You understand what I said. But for those of you who don't, and would say that the video is not true to its title, here's what I'm going to say to you. In order to build wealth, you have to have some sort of income. Whatever that income is, whether it's a great income or a small amount of income, you need to spend less than what you bring in. Then you need to take the money you are spending and buy products that are worth more than what you have to spend. Okay? Worth more. So in other words, you pay less. So if you go to the store, like what we do is we wait. You can buy a family pack of chicken at Walmart for what is it, $7, or you can pay $21 for it. It all depends on when you buy it. Or you can pay $1.99 a pound and get away with maybe $3 or $4 for it. So we always buy according to that. That's just a small example. But chicken's not a good example because it's a consumable. What I'm talking about is non-consumables. Things like tractors, welders, cars, tools that don't get consumed. Welders, but not the welding rods. I'm talking about, things like pliers that last a lifetime. Of course, these are my son's cheap pliers, but pliers that last a lifetime compared to things that last 2 weeks or the first time you use it. That's the key to building wealth. Once you understand that, this thing just gets bigger and bigger. Because what you'll do then, when you have the means, is you'll buy a house, not for yourself I'm talking, you'll buy a house for a lot less money because you know someone's selling it for less. You'll fix it up for less money than it would cost to sell the house, and then you'll make your first big dollar. I've done a lot of that. I must have done that 150 times in my life, and it paid off every single time. That's what I meant by the title, Building Wealth. Guys, have a good one.